Okay, morning, just coming, here we go. So, you know what, it's time for another unbagging video. So, I've got this big bag of games and things in there to look at. It is Sunday the 13th of November. It is post Grogmeet for me. Yesterday was the big event for Grogmeet 2022, which is a little convention that takes place in Manchester, based around the contributors and patrons and fans of the Grogmeet Files podcast. And I want to thank Chris, Dirt the Dice, and of course Blythe for arranging such another good event, and Fanboy 3, which is an absolutely fantastic gaming shop in Manchester, for being the host, and David Salisbury is a lovely guy. So we had great games. I got to play Star Frontiers and Mercenary Spies, Mercenary Private Eyes and Spies, or is it Mercenary Spies Private Eyes? And they were both really fun games. I've got lots of comments and feedback from people playing other games, and they had a great time. Then we all went sort of like a sort of like a drink and sort of like a chat in the evening, and that was good too. So it was really great to to play some games, catch up with some friends, meet some more groggies, and so on. And it's still ongoing. There are more games being played today, but it's definitely a one-day affair for us. As I say, it's a cool, grey and overcast day. I've got a nice hot cup of tea, and I've got an unbagging to do. So in effect, this unbagging is a bit like, Boxing Day for Grogmeet, because I get to show you what everything I've got. So it's a post grog unboxing, if you will. So what have I got in here? Well, let's start with this, which is Revolutionaries, which is a role-playing game from Make Believe Games, who I believe is sort of run by Mark Ryan Heigen, and then a couple of supplements there are more supplements for this in here, for Doomsday, The Investigator's Guide, and North Yorkshire Moors, so a player's book and a setting guide. And Maelstrom, the game is called Maelstrom Doomsday, and if you've not come across it, it's a horror survival game in post-Norman invasion England. It uses the same mechanics as Maelstrom, which is a little role-playing game that came out from Puffin in 1984. The only role-playing game that they published, but it was on the back of the Fighting Fantasy wave of popularity. And I've done a review of that. It's a cracking little role-playing game set in Tudor England, but Arian Games have done a lot more with it, with a version set in Norman England, and being able to pick these up in print. We have The Strange Land, which is a Space 1889 scenario, one I don't have, and this is the scenario we attempted to play at Gen Con and did not have a nice time. Our experience of this was perhaps the worst role-playing experience we had at the convention. We had 4, and the third of those was cancelled due to a family emergency, and still this was the worst one. Not the cancellation, this. It was a terrible games master, kind of overrode our role-playing and what we wanted to do, wasn't quite paying attention. And he got so bored that the player who wasn't with us, who wasn't with our group, who joined to play, he was sort of like, who became known as Red Hat Guy. Now, you may have heard of it, if you listen to the Titty Pigs podcast, you may have heard reference to him. We were all bored, and it was clear that he was bored too, because he was the one who was browsing porn on his phone. It was that boring. Anyway, so if you meet me, I will relate that tale if you ask. So also, Werewolves of Britain by Beckett Anderson. This is the latest expansion for Liminal, Paul Mitchener's modern fantasy role-playing game set across much of rural Britain, and so on. Really good, really lovely artwork in here. I read it on the train back. So yeah, and what I love about that, this is quintessentially northern. Well, not necessarily all, but it's got a really kind of northern English feel to it. You know, the line of sort of like new terrace houses, the grey skies in the background in the hills, almost as you know, almost as that could be the author's home of Sheffield. Yeah, I just really like the look of this. Look, it's a really nice read as well, pretty quick. So, let me see if I can find my favourite artwork in here. My favourite is that. I just really like it. It's sort of like, it's quite odd and it's quite creepy. So, what else we got in here? This is a copy of Crime Fighter. This is the Task Force games. Now, Chris Dirt the Dice was kind enough to give me his copy because I bought a copy and it was incomplete. And I did an unboxing of this last year and went, oh dear. So I really want to do an unboxing of this, do a take 2 of this, and then give it a proper review because I'm interested in, you know, I'm interested in role-playing games of all types, including this one, including sort of like police procedural ones as well, like this. The other one I'd like to track down along those lines from Task Force games, I think, is Delta Force. Whereas I might play Crime Fighter, you know, then I probably wouldn't play Delta Force. So, okay, big red bag of stuff, and what have I got in here? Oh, more Maelstrom. So this includes. Let's just see. Oh, we're going to do this one first because it makes more sense. This is the Doomsday campaign. This is the campaign for the Maelstrom Doomsday setting, the post-Norman invasion setting. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So yeah, but it's 300 pages long. It was sort of like quite cheap as well, so quite inexpensive. It's also done Maelstrom Gothic, which is the Victorian horror version, and then. Switching formats, we have Maelstrom Rome. So it'd be interesting to see another take upon Roman role playing. I'm kind of got an interest in sort of like I like looking at Roman settings and role playing games. You know, that if you're a true connoisseur of Roman role playing games, then the one you want to try is Fulminata. So got another bag here. What we've got in here is a big bundle of Castle Falkenstein books, so Steam Age, and the Lost Notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci, the Memoirs of Albion of Memoirs of Albion, Auburn of Fairy, Book of Sigils. Curious Creatures, which I think is a more recent one. To keep going. Oh no, I think that's all. That's all the. I think that's all the Castle Falkenstein. We've got a couple of sort of like supplement magazines. So Voice of the Answers, Tales of the Antler Bearers. This is of the Worm adventure booklet. Worm, I think it's a French Ice Age set role-playing game, and then the Voice of the Answers is number 2. So I hadn't seen, I were aware of these, but I hadn't seen them, so glad to pick those up. At some point, find my copy of Worm, give it a review, because it's like one of those role-playing games that people sort of haven't heard of. And then this pack, this is. So I want to also should thank Debbie for picking up that copy of Revolutionaries and these books, which I consist of Part-Time Gods, Third Eye Games, and the 2 supplements for it, Divine Instruments and Minions of the Source. So add those to the ever burgeoning review pile, and then. One book I'm really glad I picked up is Colossal the Roomlands, and this is a sourcebook and expansion for Colossal, which I looked at a while ago and did a review. This is the solo journaling game across a world known as the Roomlands, consisting of one giant castle that is so big that its rooms contain entire environments. I'll just flip you through, show you some of the artwork. Really, really good. I absolutely want this to be a proper full role-playing game. And to go with that, we have basically the journal for your character. So you can literally just, you know, track down things that are going on. Keep a track as you play. And there's also in here, again, there's a colossal card deck to go with it. And last but not least, at the very bottom, flurry of toned caramel biscuits, which are a must if I travel. That's what I generally take with me. Taking these out, what I have here is the slipcase edition of the Ruins of Symbaroum base setting books, first edition. These are the adaptations of the Symbaroum role-playing game to what's it called? To Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And a couple of packs in here. So we have a map, an art pack, and don't have to go anywhere. And Where the Darkness Dwells and the Gathering Storm, which looks like to be sort of like a Game Master screen for it, and some supplementary information. So that's a lot of books that I have yet to find storage space for. In fact, I don't have a storage space for them. That's my secret. I've run out of storage space. But basically a lot of books which will go into the reviews mill, as it were. Yesterday I posted my 300th and 301st review of 2022, which is a bit of a milestone. So it's all down here from here to the end of the year, just to see how many I can do. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this unbagging in the Nook. If you have, do please click on the like button down below, and if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you posting those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more, well, not necessarily unbaggings, but definitely unboxings, then where you'll see me out here typically with you know, a box or package containing a book or game, which I will unbox just about to the best extent of my knowledge, you know. So all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button down below. Lastly, once again, thanks to Chris Duck the Dice and Blythe for putting on another great event over the weekend of this last weekend of Grogmeet 2022. Hope everybody enjoyed the quiz questions which we did on Thursday night. Had a great game on Friday night, and having great games now today. And here's to next year. And hopefully we'll see some of you at next year's Grogmeet, or potentially at Grogmeet, which is the beginning of next month, and UK Games Expo, which is next June. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again soon.